Welcome back to Season 4 of ComicBook Nation, the official podcast of ComicBook.com and your one-stop shop for all things geek culture. If you are watching us on the live stream right now, you can see we back inside. After many weeks of being able to be back in the studio together, unfortunately, the vid is still lurking out in these streets, even as summer comes. And to ensure the current health and status of our crew, we are back at home. So this week we will be at home, but looking forward to getting back in the studio hopefully next week and making sure everybody's healthy and doing all the safety things we got to do to keep the show going and our wonderful staff feeling great. But that dark cloud aside, that's the only dark cloud we have today because we have so much fun stuff to talk about. I mean, that's a lie. We're about to get real dark and argue a lot. What people in this podcast kind of say they love. So
I did not.
Yeah.
I did not comic book. I did not infect everyone.
Matt infected everybody. Went to
Is there a helmet con?
No, that's the last place. I mean, that's like the safest place we can probably bet on is helmet con. Everybody's wearing helmets. I mean, forget that.
Face shield con. But face shield con needs to be a thing.
If you're a longtime fan of the show, you probably noticed we have an extra special someone in addition to my regular co-hosts Matthew Aguilar and Janelle Wheeler. We have Nicole Drum back with us, one of our fantastic ComicBook.com writers, one of our powerhouse writers out here. She knows everything. She knows TV, she knows movies, she knows DC, she knows Marvel, and we brought her here because she's been saying some stuff with her chest on Twitter, and I've been very proud. And we wanted to get her in and join this ragtag team of malcontents, which is what we are. We have a very positive Marvel podcast, Phase Zero, attached to Comic Book. But what we do here is a little bit more dark and cynical. And today, that's what we're getting into.
So I'm on the wrong podcast, aren't I?
Dark and cynical.
No, I mean, provide the necessary light.
That's a lie. You pretend, like Matt, you pretend to provide light, but then you turn out to be the hottest.
I know, Janelle. Yeah, Janelle's dished some hard takes, man.
You come in real peppery. There's been
maybe she's being corrupted.
Yeah, I think it's just Janelle. I think I just surround myself with secretly aggro people like myself.
Yeah, Darkhold.
But it's
Darkhold's finally getting to Janelle.
Yes.
Yeah, and you guys are not it because I hear something up in the sky and kind of flying in real quick, coming with some aerial maneuvers. We're bringing in a hot shot himself. Let's get him in here. Mr. Chris Killian is with us today.
Oh, what's up? How you guys doing?
That is probably the best reveal we've ever had on this show. Congratulations, sir.
We need sound effects.
Mr. Chris Killian is with us, and he, if you're watching this video like you should be, is feeling the need for speed. He has been our inside man who has been out to go see Paramount's new movie, Top Gun Maverick. Tom Cruise is coming back with the iconic Top Gun franchise and character, and from what we hear, Chris, this has actually turned out to be a really good legacy sequel. And Mr. Chris Killian was out. He's seen it. He has opinions he's about to share with you guys. And he got to talk with the man himself, which we're going to share with you. So, Chris, take it away. Top Gun Maverick. Should people be out in theaters?
Say what?
Should people be out in theaters for this one?
Oh, 100% should be out in theaters. You have to watch this on the biggest screen you can find. Now, as you can tell, I'm wearing my aviators. You probably thought that was because of Top Gun Maverick, but it's actually because I'm best friends with Tom Cruise now. So I don't like people to look me directly in the eyes. But
I feel like you've been like this since you got to Comic Book, though. I remember distinctly not being able to look at you and having to stare at a lot of your shoes when you walk through the office.
It's in my rider. Yeah, I have that in my contract. I get really upset when people look at me directly in my line of vision. But no, it's Top Gun Maverick's amazing. It's the legacy sequels are kind of weird, right? Because there's some of them that are pretty good, and then they're more often than not they're awful. And Top Gun Maverick is not one of those. It's probably the best legacy sequel that I've seen up to this point. And it feels so weird to say this, but I genuinely think it might be better than the original. That's a huge compliment. Granted, watching it with Tom Cruise might,
Are those rose tinted glasses?
Yeah. But I saw it before that. I've seen it twice now, and it is. It's not quite as quotable. The soundtrack's not as good. The soundtrack was never going to be better than the original. But as a movie, the film sequences are incredible. it hits all the notes that you need a Top Gun movie to hit. I think it's probably even more dramatic than the first one. It's just fantastic. I mean, it's really solid. You can tell that a lot of care and effort went into it. And then when you even talk to the junket, right? When you go to the junket or the red carpet, you talk to the cast. I mean, there's always this energy, like they know if they're in a bad movie, right? You know, like it's always weird when you have to talk to people and you kind of know that the movie's not great or it's not going to do well. But that was not the case here. Like everybody was so excited to talk about it. Everybody was in the best mood possible. I mean, it's just it's an awesome movie. I cannot sing its praises enough.
Awesome. And I always have, confidence that Tom is going to deliver because that man, like he obsessively at the core of his being, delivering awesome movie stuff is who he is. How about the new cast? Can we have some faith in the new cast? Because there's a whole new generation of pilots we got to follow.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think Miles Teller is like a spitting image of Goose. I mean, he really does look like he could be his son. Like they did a great job making him look the part. The rest of the cast everybody's awesome. I mean, it's so fun to see Val Kilmer again. I mean, I've missed that guy on screen, and his cameo is I don't want to give any spoilers, but it's great. So I'm trying to be very careful about what I give away because we're still a few weeks away or whatever. But it's everybody's awesome. Everybody delivers. The only thing that's a little weird, it was a little weird for me, is like Jennifer Connelly to me was like sort of out of nowhere as the love interest. But then I realized that, and I didn't know this when I first watched it, but I realized after the fact that she's actually the daughter. There's a scene in the first movie where they kind of hint that Tom Cruise has had a relationship with one of the admiral's daughters and he got in trouble for it or whatever in the first movie, and she's that character that they reference.
I love it.
And a lot of people don't know that, but that made it like, oh, that's cool.
That's a deep cut. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Thank
you for telling me because I would have never gone back and figured that out. So thank you.
That's
yeah.
cool.
But everybody's great. It's I mean, they really spend a lot of time on this movie, and I mean, the fact that everything is practically done is just insane in today's day and age. And I even talked to the director about what sequences, like were there any sequences that he thought they legitimately like might not be able to pull off, and there is a specific sequence in there that he told me that like they had to get special permission from the Pentagon to fly like 100 feet above ground and stuff. Wow. I mean, it's insane how low they get these planes in some of the scenes. I mean, it's awesome.
I feel like Tom Cruise literally goes out there and he's like, rules? There are no rules. We're making movies. Like, yeah. I mean, just society means nothing to him. All right. So that's great. Thank you, Chris Killian, for kind of coming in and breaking down Top Gun Maverick. It's out in theaters. I believe right now it comes out today. Yes. I believe.
It doesn't come out today. No? I think it comes out. I thought it came out like the 27th.
Oh man, I'm way early. I have no idea.
Hold on a second. You know what? I'm looking at it right now. Let's
because if it came out today, where I'd be right now.
I think it's
You were way too early to be
May,
booked on
May
this show.
24th.
Why
May 24th. Well, the review embargo's up, so there's that.
No, I'm just kidding.
The hype is real.
The hype is real. We wanted to get everything out there to let people know that this is real, legit. And I mean, like I said, I teased it gets better than this. You got to stand out all day on an aircraft carrier, risk life and limb, but you did get to talk to Tom Cruise, which is pretty much the requisite if you ever want to talk to Tom Cruise. So
not only
let's run that if we have it loaded up. I'm sorry.
Okay,
go ahead, Chris.
Run it. No. It's okay. It's okay. We can talk after. Let's
okay.
Run it.
Maverick back is incredible, and now in your career you've only replayed 3 characters. Is there any other characters from your epic career that you would be interested in possibly revisiting?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. Right now, I mean, I did Les Grossman for the MTV Awards. I did Les Grossman,
I had to say, please, Les Grossman.
But we'll have to see. That could be fun. I really don't know at this moment. I'm just kind of enjoying this night, and I got to finish mission. Do you know what I mean? It's like I'm enjoying this night. I'm going to put all my mission stuff away for a moment to just breathe tonight. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Man, Chris Killian, the timing. You knew when to throw that thank you in there. You're a true pro out there, bro. I love it.
Oh, thanks.
And
Not only
how it's just so crazy. Tom Cruise just slides into that Wes Grossman bounce like it's nothing.
Oh, it was. I wanted more. As soon as he started, I was like, please just do a spin for me, anything. But it was great. What you didn't see in that footage was I shook his hand before I talked to him, and he shook my hand afterwards, and I still haven't washed this hand. I mean, it's still like, I don't want to be gross, but I was in the airport flying.
You're the one who gave everybody COVID, is what you're saying.
You're patient zero.
No, I didn't see anybody.
So, Omicron Maverick. We know where it started.
Don't pin that on me. Don't you pin that on me. I feel great.
Omicron Maverick variant starts here. All right.
I feel great. I have been, now that I'm friends with Tom, he's actually invited me into his hyperbaric chamber, where I have cured all the COVID. I have nothing. I'm great.
All right, Chris Killian. Oh man, that was awesome. Thank you for dropping in and give us an early review of Top Gun. We forgot to work this out before the show, but are you sticking around, or do you have to jet right now? No pun.
You know what? I appreciate you saying jet like that. I have to say I'm happy to stick around for a few more minutes if you guys are about to bash on Multiverse of Madness.
We very much are. So you want to get in on this?
I have thoughts. I'll get in on it. Why not?
Oh, man, it's turning into a gang initiative. We're like the crew at the beginning of the Batman. All we need is some face paint. Yeah. All right. Except the guy on the train is now Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. All right. So let's get into it. Today's hot debate topic is going to be also, May. We confirmed it's May 27th, or early access May 24th, full access May 27th, Top Gun Maverick. Let's talk about Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. Did this movie really do Scarlet Witch dirty and kind of ruin this character? Me and Matt in our secret chamber of conversation, Janelle Wheeler, hadn't seen Multiverse of Madness yet.
I ran away.
Has it only been a week?
Yeah.
It's only been a week.
It feels like a lifetime.
Wow. But yes, it's been only a week. But we were talking about this. And we asked Nicole here today because she was really passionate about this. Like I said, it just feels like this movie, and Matt and I kind of had been talking about this on the podcast for a year, was this big opportunity to do something different with Scarlet Witch, right? Was to do something because there was a way to kind of, I feel like, take what was done in the comics, but examine it from a new angle based on the kind of depth and complexity that we got from particularly WandaVision, right? And something that the comics in some ways had never done for Scarlet Witch. And we were all amazed when WandaVision came out. And I feel like Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness kind of fumbled the bag on this. But that's just my introductory point. That's the grenade in the room. How do you guys feel? Nicole, let's jump to you as our special guest. Go off. I know you've been waiting.
Fumbled the bag is putting it mildly. And I want to preface this by saying that Elizabeth Olsen did an absolutely phenomenal job.
Yeah.
Let's
put this on the side.
Regardless of whatever I think about the way the movie treated the character, she knocked it out of the park.
Amazing.
And also, as a secondary note, what they did to Wanda also does not serve Strange. It fails multiple characters, but it really fails Wanda. And like you said, they had a real opportunity, especially after WandaVision, to take what I think is one of the most misunderstood, but also most badly handled stories in Marvel with Wanda, and give it depth and meaning, because WandaVision did this beautiful exploration of trauma. We get finally to understand what she did. We understand why she did it. We get her to this place where she is at roughly where we would see her kind of reflecting and kind of have an opportunity to move forward with some healing. And people have been all on me about the whole post-credit scene from WandaVision, but the dark hole. Yeah. No. WandaVision basically gave us this perfect place to put her on a path towards something bigger and better with a little more nuance. And then Multiverse of Madness comes up and is like, what if we did WandaVision with less nuance, but dial it to 11? And to me, it just felt like they leaned into every weak, negative possible trope that you can do for a woman with power, and just was like, oh, look, women with power can't handle it, and we're going to disregard all of the work that she did and just have her go full bonkers. And then on top of that, we're going to have her do the, oh God, what have I done sacrifice. And that's just terrible storytelling. And it doesn't leave any nuance for this character. It's repeating all of the same, things. It's like, oh, look, powerful woman must be villain. And those lines about the fact that they tried to frame it with motherhood and as soon as they said that line about all mothers making their babies out of magic, the woman in the theater next to me literally looked at her kid and said, "You were made out of 9 months of hell and 36 hours of labor." And I was like, "Can I buy you a drink?" Because
life got real for that kid.
That's the truth. And she is like mumbling under her breath, "A man wrote that line." And I was like, probably. but it's true. It's like they frame this character. It's almost like they don't know what to do with her. They don't know what to do with a character who is more than just good or bad. And at the same time, they set this story up almost as a way to, we're going to have Wanda break bad because we need a bad guy. Wanda could have still done bad things because of the Darkhold, but they didn't have to jump directly to that. And they didn't have to do it this way. And the thing that really, really, really sticks like right here for me is they basically burned this character in furtherance of a male character whose entire character arc of growth is couldn't get over his ex-girlfriend. What the crap? And it's like his entire story arc is he can't get over his girlfriend and can't learn to let other people help. So we get this nod of, at the end, he has this heartfelt chat-ish, if you can call it that. And then he lets the other female character who, while I love America and I love the actress and I love everything, like that was so cool. They just kind of gave her the token, you solve it at the end. And somehow Strange is still getting the praise. And on top of that, it just annoys me how all this time, Wanda, from the minute we've met her, could have used a friend. She could have used a mentor. She could have used some support. And instead, all the Avengers, and I'm putting this specifically on Strange because he is the one who has magic. He is the one who's best suited to be her ally. No one comes to help her. No one comes to ask her if she needs anything. But the second he needs something, he's knocking on her door.
Yeah, that was my big thing. And Matt and I had said
really
this on the podcast that like we really were hoping that this was about Strange and Wanda kind of teaming up and helping each other and kind of making a connection as friends. But Chris, you stayed behind for this, so I want to give you a chance to go off too.
Well, I don't want to get into the gender specific tropes of it because I don't feel like that's really my place to talk about. But I my thought on it is simply that like there were certain plot holes that bugged me about the movie. And anytime you're going to have a multiverse movie, you're going to have plot holes. I mean, that's just the nature of it. But I did think that like the extreme that Wanda goes to in order to be with her kids again, you know, when she acknowledges that her children are not real, like Doctor Strange tells her, like, your children aren't real. And she's like, I know that, but I still want to be with them. Mm-hmm. You know, I felt very much like, well, if you're willing to like kill a teenage girl, kill your own variant or possess your variant or essentially kill her and take her place, and then be with these kids, you like at the risk of destroying all of the universes in existence, you know, why don't you just make your kids again? Like, and I'm not saying like birth new kids. I'm saying make the exact same kids because you're powerful enough to clearly do that. Now, the short answer to that is we wouldn't have a movie. So, you know, that's, you know, that it is what it is. But the other big thing that stuck out for me is that like there was no Vision here at all. Like there was barely a mention of him. But the fact that like in all of the multiverses, like you couldn't, it's like all of the ideal places were her playing single mom, but not having the entire family back together, which I thought was a strange thing. So I kept thinking for like Vision's going to have to show up at the end and there's going to be some sort, you know, maybe he's the one that kind of pulls her back from the Darkhold and makes her real, but it wasn't like that. There was just no mention of Vision. And that kind of felt like a very obvious absence to me. I felt like where is this guy? I mean, because we know he's still alive, floating out there, and also to act like he's not existing in any of the multiverses it was a strange, no pun intended. It was a weird call for me. So yeah. So I think that that's pretty much my big hang up with the movie is that like some of it, you know, that's where it was ringing false for me. Because, I just know how, I mean, she talks about how traumatized she was by having to kill Vision, but, you know, she never tried to find him also in another form of this, all of these multiverses. That was weird to me. That's all.
It is weird.
It stuck out.
It is weird because Wanda's whole thing isn't even about, if you go back to her initial trauma, it's about losing her family. It's about losing her parents. It's about losing her brother. Wanda would not go into mess up a multiverse just to go get her kids. She would want her whole family back. She would want to feel whole and complete because that's the hole that's inside of her. That's what she's been trying to recreate since the moment we've met her.
Right. And I mean, especially when the kids are such a dynamic of like her relationship with Vision, like that she only created them to kind of facilitate that relationship and make it feel, you know, like so Vision is really, to me, at the heart of what Wanda cares about. And so to not have him take more, you know, be a little more front and center. And you know, it could have been explained away with a simple line, because, you know, when you propose these questions, you know, with plot holes, you know, everybody's always going to be like, well, Vision would have talked her out of it, or Vision would have, well, no, not necessarily. No. Like if she could have, you know, had her kids play dumb and never know that she took over the variant, you know, she could have very well done that to a multiverse version of Vision as well. But you know, but all it needs is a line to explain why. But there was nothing. So you know, if you don't have some throwaway line that explains why she's not concerned about finding Vision, well, then we're just left to figure it out on our own, and that's what makes it a plot hole.
So I want to answer some. So we need to get Janelle in here.
Yeah, I want to. Yeah, I'm very curious. Yeah, I also just want to address
Janelle's face right now.
There's something I want to address in the comments though, which is somebody just asked, did they see the end of WandaVision? The answer is no. Sam Raimi has publicly said he did not watch WandaVision. So I think that links back to some other points that were in the comments earlier, which is, I don't think, while we are kind of focused on the dynamics of writing this female character, I don't think we're coming at it as a, you know, a feminine rights perspective. I think we're all coming at it as just a, you know, we can make this simple. This is just a writing conversation. We are all people who write here, and we are talking about writing, right? So we can just make this an easy frame. We're talking about a writing of a character in a franchise that invests a lot of time and screen time developing these characters. So the question is, where has this character gone in this movie? Is it forwards according to the logic of all the other content we've seen before this? Or did we take some kind of weird left turn into generic bad guy land, which is what I think a lot of us are saying. This doesn't feel like an honest progression of Wanda's character or the work that Elizabeth Olsen had done with this character to get us to this point. It feels weird for all the reasons Chris just pointed out too, from like the character motivation reasons, like how is she not caring about Viz and her whole family? That's what she wanted in WandaVision. She didn't just burn away Viz and be like, man, F you, keep these kids. Like, you know, she wanted the whole thing. So like, again, her seeking out just the kids for these weird aggravated mommy reasons, it's not true to the character we met.
Well, and also to the issue of the feminist question, the reason like feminist issues come into this because she's a female character. Of course, there are going to be aspects of that character that would only apply to her because she is, you know, presented as female. Like you can't have a motherhood issue necessarily, like what they're trying to latch onto that character thrown on the male character, because you know it's going to be a different dynamic.
Explain all motherhood issues in this movie. No,
I mean, parenthood issues are what they are, but you know, they made it specifically about moms, and that's why I'm not trying to make this a feminist versus dudes issue, because I've got complaints about Marvel for the way they treat their dudes too. But for me, that, you know, as a mom, I saw that and went, nope. Like,
on Mother's Day weekend, which great segue to Janelle, who we sent unsuspecting into this for Mother's Day weekend. How'd that go?
My birthday is on Mother's Day, and so I went to go see the movie for my birthday. But I'm just going to be really honest. I went in with strange like worries. I was really, really worried about, is this going to be his movie? Is Wanda? I had already heard that it was Wanda's movie, and I've already been very frustrated with the depiction of Strange in the MCU because I don't think he's likable or honorable or any of the things that like I love about him in the comics. So I went in and I felt really rewarded, like, because that was my focus. So I was like, oh, I finally like Strange because he has some kind of a heart. Like he's heartbroken about Christine and he like helps America and he like does the righteous thing for once, even though that's what his whole character is like built upon. And he's not a jerk to a kid. Like he is with Spider-Man. That's why I can't stand No Way Home. I literally can't watch No Way Home because of the way that Strange is in that movie. And so anyways, yeah. So my perspective was not influenced by Wanda stuff at all. I love her, but not close to Strange. And so I did not even think of this perspective until it was on our podcast. Like, this is what we're duking it out about today. And I went, oh, snap. And so I kind of just took a moment to reflect, because I was just more like, dude, she's a badass. Like, she's so strong. She's so powerful. Like, she's crazy. And I like that. Like, I'm like, she's evil and like powerful. And like, he admits that she's stronger than, than even he is. Like, I was just pumped about, I like evil. I love villains. I'm a villain. I always lean towards villains. So whenever I see like a character I already like become villainous and like dark and eerie and stuff, I'm all about it. But now that you brought this up, I'm like, oh no, like, I guess you're right. And for me, my biggest thing that I hated with Wanda was that we didn't get White Vision, at least, because that was one of my most exciting moments about WandaVision, was White Vision jumping in and being like, what's up? Okay, I'm out. And he just flies off into to the distance. We have no idea where he is. And like, it would have been so cool, like, to have some sort of White Vision interaction, like, even if he doesn't exist in other multiverses, like, just he does exist in this one. We know it.
Say White Vision is making me slightly uncomfortable. Let's move on.
Is that what we call it?
Yes. No, I'm just joking with you.
White Vision.
I love White Vision though. He's so cool.
There's no Brown Vision. Let's get on that, Marvel. Come on.
Well, on that note, I probably should dip out of here.
I ran Cruz off.
Scared him away.
Thanks to Chris Killian for dropping in. He's got stuff to do, but we thank him for kind of helping us out on this one. Yeah, it's a good place to drop out. Now that Matt took the baton and threw it there, what do you guys say for yourself? Have you seen? How do you feel in a week later?
So one, I just love, by the way, the conversation we have had so far. I think this is like what this show does so well, and I just adore it. So like this conversation has been everything. So I just wanted to throw that appreciation out there. Second, I will say I think all of you make really good points, and that's why this movie for me is I'm conflicted. I would say it's probably the leading feeling I have, because I didn't hate it. I really enjoyed aspects of this movie, and then there's other aspects that drive me crazy. I will say I'm still kind of conflicted on it, but at least I have more of an idea of like why I'm conflicted on it, because I've had a couple conversations about this movie with other people, right? As more and more people see it, it's like, oh my God, okay, we can talk, right? So as you're having those conversations, I've had them with people who have like read the comics and have some longtime fans, some fans who jumped in at like Avengers Disassembled when that version of Wanda really kind of went into overdrive, right? And then saw the other stuff that's come after, and some who have just watched MCU. So it's just really fascinating, because I feel like the people who have read the comics and enjoy the comics as far as when Wanda, like probably from Disassembled on, when that kind of really became a focus, and then we move into House of M and all that stuff, have a lot more appreciation for this movie if they liked that particular rendition of Wanda. Like if they gravitated towards that, and that was kind of their first real impression of the character, because before that, the character is iconic without a lot of identifiable reasons why early on in her career. In her comics career, that character is the focal point, and you can point out some really great stories, but you're going to be hard pressed, because again, it was a lot of mixed editorial, and there was a lot of writers doing a lot of different stuff, and it was always just like, I'm troubled. And it was kind of like the Jean Grey thing of like, like one feeling, and for a long time that's all you focused on, and then finally people were like, we can do a lot more with this character, and broke out of that box. To me, that was kind of Wanda's early career. So those people who kind of identify with this one era in the comics seem to enjoy this movie a lot more, and those that don't, or those that kind of have a little bit of a wider scope, I find the issues. And I understand both. Like, I understand both points of view. For me, it's just about the biggest problem I've had with the MCU to this point is consequences. And it's something that only serves the plot. It never feels consistent. It's always, well, we need this. We need Tony to like we need the Tony Winter Soldier thing to really feel like it has consequences because we need Civil War to happen. That's why that feels that way. And it's great because they work that in, but that should be the thing across the board. And it doesn't feel consistent. And that's why I feel like Multiverse of Madness, or In Madness, whatever the movie's called. I always say them wrong every single time. So this movie goes back and forth. And just like, to me, I had issues with WandaVision doing this. I've had issues with other Disney Plus Marvel shows of like, okay, you've shown us how bad things can get and how good things can get, but you never give us a stable line of what is acceptable by society, what is acceptable by other people. It's always just depends. And it doesn't ever feel like I can grasp onto that. And Madness does the same thing with Strange. Like, Strange is being held accountable. And then at other times, it feels like he's just given the keys to the kingdom, like, yeah, do whatever you want. It never, same way with Wanda. It always feels all over the place. So I just need something to ground onto. And here, the Darkhold as a MacGuffin is not properly established to me enough to let that be the out clause. We've seen things, right? Everyone's forgiven Hawkeye for turning on everybody in Avengers, right? Because that was a firmly like planted, like, hey, he's being controlled. It's not him. And they make sure to reiterate that multiple times, right? Like, there's always this thing. And so you forgive him for that. That's why Endgame doesn't make any sense, because he went and killed a bunch of people and there were no consequences for that other than his own damn guilt. That doesn't work for me, right? So this is my problem with Wanda. How at the end of WandaVision, there's not really any consequences other than her own internal stuff. That's fine. Right. But I need like the real world to react to someone taking control of a damn town for how long, right? And like putting these people in just through hell. Same thing here. It doesn't. It's like the impacts don't hit because there doesn't feel like she's killed all these people. And I didn't feel like we had to push her there yet. If you want to go that way all out, so be it. But then lean into it more. It feels like we're in this weird middle space.
Yeah.
And I feel like they picked
that was my problem too. Like,
it's like they didn't pick a pace.
Yeah.
Wanda was powerful enough, and I've made this argument other places, that she could have hurt all these people, and you could have made this scary. She's plenty scary. She can get inside people's heads. That one sequence at the Battle of Carmitage is really great.
Oh God, that was.
When she makes that guy run, like, you could have done that. But it's just Sam Raimi, so he just wants her to obliterate people into red dust, and it's like, that's the part I didn't buy. Mm-hmm. I think Wanda could have been just as angry, just as furious, but still be Wanda enough and give us enough leeway to say, yeah, she just messed up a whole fortress full of sorcerers, broke some bones, slammed people into walls, got inside their heads and have them drooling on themselves and, all that stuff. But she still, like, and then when she delivers a line like, I am being reasonable, like, that makes, that feels a lot better. It makes the character more complex and not just murderous. And there's a lot that could be done here. But I feel like we're starting to go in circles and we got to pay some bills. So if anybody has any final thoughts, let's get them out. And because I don't think we've swayed anybody. And just for the comments, we're talking spoilers. It's a week later. Marvel Studios has officially dropped the spoiler ban on this when Marvel says it. And we titled this in a way that should probably tell you we're going to be talking about spoilers.
Yeah, I know. I don't know what else to
do.
The Doctor Strange 2 ruins Scarlet Witch. I do feel like that gives
that feels like a dead giveaway, but I'm sorry if anybody was spoiled, but you'll still get something out of the movie even if you know what's going on.
Yeah, but all right. So, are we good? Can we take a break? Because
I still really liked the movie.
I will watch again. Too.
It's in my top 5.
Okay, let's go around
Marvel
real quick.
movie.
Where does everybody put it? I think Doctor Strange is in the middle for me. I think it's in the middle. I think Marvel has always had a sequel problem. I think the only franchise that's been immune to the sequel problem has been Captain America so far. That's the only one to come up in its sequel. I can't think of very many others where the number 2 movie is like one of my favorites. So, I mean, this is the usual growing pains because the sequel movies of these franchises usually have to do a double job of trying to build and trying to set up something bigger. Even Thor: The Dark World was like Infinity Stones, so there's always something going on in a sequel. So this was pretty much on par. So I got it in the middle of my stack. How about you guys?
I would say low middle for me. It's not going to be a top tier thing. I will go back to it again at some point. I probably will go back to it in the theater because admittedly I did I did love watching Scarlet Witch just burn it all down on the big screen. I mean, that was a glorious moment. I can't even pretend otherwise. I enjoyed it so much.
Oh yeah, visually, no problem.
She's
It's
crazy
definitely once I got through watching it, and now it's kind of low middle, definitely setting. You can tell they're setting up for more, and when you go into it, it's okay. It's okay. It's good for what it is.
Jay.
I literally put this above Endgame for me, but
What?
it's in my top 5. It's number 3. Yeah.
There you go, man.
Wow.
All right.
I love
Say
it.
it with your chest. I
love
like it.
Strange. I love all the
Own it.
characters. I swear to God, I just did not have ill intent with the Wanda stuff. I just didn't think of it. I was just engrossed.
You
in,
don't
like,
have to. We're
strange
not here to
stuff.
indoctrinate anybody.
So
That's why they brought me.
yeah.
Be bad.
Matt, and finally Matt.
Man, I always have a hard time with these ranking things, but I will say middle, but middle, like top half of my middle.
Okay. All right.
Probably somewhere in there. If I had to, there's just too many now. I gotta have a list and a sheet.
There are.
I don't even know what my top 10 are on any given day. Like it's just like I can't. I have
it gets crazy. All right, we're gonna take a break, but in the comments again, guys, yes, last week we said we purposefully broke the Doctor Strange talk last week into spoiler-free impressions at the top of the show, and then even Janelle got a chance to.
I literally
leave the
got him to
room
walk out
before we even started talking about spoilers. So I don't know what else to do. I have to create a show for this live stream, and for a Sunday morning live stream, and for a podcast that has to live for a week. I got a lot of masters to serve.
I asked
when we
my
come
Twitch
back, we'll
community-
show you how we do it, okay?
They said 45 days. I'm like, no.
No, in the age of the internet, that is not realistic. I am so sorry. But
Yeah, no.
45
we're gonna
days.
be out here.
Yeah, wait till
Go
it's on
hide.
Disney Plus. Everybody chill. We're gonna be back. Comic Book Nation. Stick around if you want. Shout out to our producer Peter for producing this great art and for dropping some awesome comments in the thing. Yeah, if you didn't want to be spoiled about Doctor Strange, our work this week is not for you because spoilers. All right, so we went so in on that I forgot the positive part. So in a quick sentence, what do you guys want to see for the future of the Scarlet Witch / Wanda in the MCU? Funny enough, Lizzie Olsen, we had when I worked for the other site, we did an interview with her where I shared it with Nicole, where she actually said she would really love to do this storyline that we got in Doctor Strange 2. But kind of building off that, because she also said like House of M and stuff, I would love to see, maybe this variant of Wanda be done if she's dead, and us deal with the one that kind of comes from an X-Men related universe where she is a mutant and we get that version of Wanda, and she's a mutant and proud and embracing and full control of her powers, and we just get a completely new, let's start fresh with a new variant of Wanda that becomes our Wanda. So that's my take. What do you guys say in a sentence?
I personally will take almost any Wanda Scarlet Witch story going forward because I love this character so much. And I've even told you this, Kofi. I spent a lot of time doing academic research about this character back in college and grad school. For me, I think they've set up really beautifully for a MCU variant of the Children's Crusade, and I would be willing to accept that because of the characters that brings us. But Lizzie Olsen herself has even mentioned Witch's Road. And if they were to keep this particular version of her, I think that could be a cool story to explore. But to be perfectly honest, as long as they keep the character for me, I'll take anything they offer and probably be big mad about it. So,
are we talking like an Agatha team up situation? Is that what that is?
Honestly, I would watch the crap out of that.
Me too.
Like, oh my
I
God.
would love that. I would love to see. I don't want this Wanda to go away. I mean, that was the first and most concerning moment when the film ended. I looked over and I'm like, she's not gone though, right? Like she survived that somehow. Like I freaked out.
One of ours, Jenna Anderson, actually wrote a piece about how this could lead to the Children's Crusade and made a pretty good case for this Wanda. Theoretically, they could angle it to where she's not actually gone. And she made some pretty good points, and that's up on Comicbook.com, and you really should check it out because it's not something I had really thought of, because I had the same thing of, they killed my girl. What?
Yeah.
But then she brought that up. I'm like, oh, that's a good point. And it opens up a lot of other doors. So check that out if you haven't had a chance.
That's what I want. Yeah, I want an Agatha and Wanda team up.
All right, Matt, so we can move on. What do you want?
I mean, I
Perfect.
Well, if we're gonna get a
response.
Children's
Love
Crusade,
it.
I'm good with that. If that's what we go next, I'm good. I'm like Nicole. I want Olsen. I love her Scarlet Witch.
She's so good.
I don't believe I'm still saying this, but guys, yes, the show used to be on Wednesdays. So when movies came out, we'd have to wait till the following Wednesday to talk about them. That's why it seems like we used to wait longer. Now the show's on Fridays, which is a whole different program.
You got to.
Okay.
Let's
And
just move on
also
to
shout
Halo.
out to Nick Floyd in the comments, one of our wonderful producers and kind of like engineers, technicians, video editors. Nick Floyd's in the comments, so shout out to him too. Let's talk about something we can all change gears and talk about something that launched this week. I know headlines were made. There's a new king of podcasting. And it isn't Comicbook Nation, but it is something we all listen to, and we are going to talk about now, which is Batman Unburied, the Spotify original podcast series.
I was trying to find it on Apple. I'm like, guys, where is this?
Is out. And we just thought, in case
blog.
you guys didn't know, this is a new Batman-themed podcast, and it's shot up to number one. DC fans, you guys are off the chain. You made this thing go number one right off the bat. But are you still happy that you did so? So let's talk about that. Matt, this was your idea, so you get in the hot seat and talk about your impression.
That was almost an evil laugh, Matt.
Wow. Okay. I mean, here's the thing, though. I love this. Like, I love podcasts. I listen to podcasts like all day, like even like when I'm not listening to ours. But like I listen to like everything, right? So I did make a mistake. That the first episode, when you listen to the first episode, there's some kind of grisly stuff that happens in the first episode, and the sound effects are very off-putting. And so I was like eating, I was like working and eating and listening to this at the same time. And all of a sudden there's like this like crunching stuff and like some really stuff. And I was like, oh God, like I had to stop. I can't remember what I was eating, but it was off-putting.
Yeah, it's not one to have earphones.
It's called Batman Unburied, right? It's not like it didn't hide its intentions either. But I love this. I'm always game for new takes on Batman. We cover a lot of Batman on the show, a lot of different takes of Batman on the show. This is yet another one. It took a minute for me. I will probably say first episode is very much a slow burn, very much so. And in fact, it didn't really click for me until episode 2 and 3, when the Barbara Gordon of it all kind of really starts to because like that's what initially sold me on this podcast, was reading the description. It's like Barbara Gordon is gonna Detective Barbara Gordon's doing all this. I was like, I'm in. Doesn't matter. I'm like Nicole. When it's Scarlet, it might be bad. I'm gonna at least give it a shot, right? So once we start getting further into that though, and away from just all the Bruce of it, I really enjoy it. And also this voice cast.
Oh God, yeah.
Oh my gosh, like Hassan Minhaj as Nigma is like, I never would have thought that, but like,
it's genius. It's genius level casting for that.
Yeah, and Gina Rodriguez, Barbara Gordon. Like again, I'm all about like let's keep that Latin explosion moving in DC. I'm happy. I'm happy. I have a camper, man. So yeah, I dug this.
Matt's
again,
agenda.
I do think you should give it at least 2 episodes. So
yeah,
I think the
agreed.
first episode It's just it might not hook
It
you.
needs at least 2.
Yeah, it's a slow burn. I guess I'll segue and say, yeah, it's a slow burn for sure. You have to kind of, and I think people should read the premise before they jump in, which is that this is not like your typical. This is a complete reimagining of Batman and his world and where we find Bruce Wayne. He's a forensic pathologist. He works on dead bodies. His parents are alive. Like, he interacts with them, and so it's a very different take on it. So just know that going in. But if you like old radio serials and stuff like that, if you're a person who was ever a fan of that brand of entertainment and content, then this is definitely up your alley, because it's a new podcast, but it's also produced very much like an old radio serial with the sound effects and the voice cast and the kind of pulpy 1930s serial feel to everything, but with a modern edge. So yeah, once it gets warmed up and you get past the initial just shock of having to get into the world building of this through audio version, it is an interesting thing, and it does become absorbing, and the voice cast does do a good job of putting on an actual vocal play that becomes absorbing to you. And there are real creepy things, like when the killer gets involved. And I think it clicked for me in the scene. I think it's near the end of the first episode where the killer, the Waynes encounter the killer in a very personal, straightforward way. And it almost felt like Luther or something else, like a great kind of serial killer movie. And it almost, or the Batman or something and so I was just like, ooh, and I sat up, and that made me kind of take notice. But it won't be for everybody. Let's be clear and let's be honest. This won't be for everybody. But if you're a DC fan and you're looking for some other way to get into your kind of DC universe content, this is a good way to get into it. It's not bad. And if you're on a drive or something, it's a good thing to listen to. Don't do it at night.
We'll be keeping tabs
Don't do it at night though,
as new episodes come out.
Do we have to?
Oh my God! Perfect segue. All right. So, what did you think, Janelle?
Secret, positivity and light of the show. Let's go, Janelle.
I'm finally gonna keep it real. I am so over freaking Batman. I'm so over it. It is taking everything in me to be not super negative, and I know it's I'm the positive one. Nope. Now I'm not. I'm so tired of Batman. There's got to be more to DC. There's got to be more than literally recreating an entire Batman and his parents all these things that is not typically I'm just so over it. And I woke up, I had a nice meditation. I was having a lovely coffee with my dog. I did some yoga and stretching. And then I turned this on, and it literally ruined my day. It is so intense, and it is brutal, and the sound effects are a lot. And it's just I miss superhero. I really, really want I want Wonder Woman. I want Superman. I'm just over this dark stuff. Personally speaking, that's a me thing. That's not an everybody thing. But personally, I am just this. I'm over it. This is just too heavy.
Oh, Janelle, you set yourself up. So does that mean you're over the Joker?
Kind of, yeah. No, I literally said that to my fiance.
I'm glad we have this week's comics to go over.
Yeah, I know. I was literally wow. Yeah. I'm just ready. I even with our weekly comics, I'm can we please just not have another Batman? Can we please just dive into some of these other DC roles that I don't know anything about? Because there's so many other things to explore, and I just they are just so obsessed and consumed with Batman.
Yo, you sound like Bruce Timm. You're gonna start chain smoking like him too.
I agree with you, and I'm a huge Batman fan. Everybody knows this. I live and breathe that. Look at the wall. Love Batman, and I'm also at the point of y'all. Can we take a Batman break? Can we come back to Batman later? Because there are these other great and dynamic characters, and if we have to stay in Gotham, can we do some of the other characters? Because there's some great characters that we're not given the love to. So
you guys
Janelle,
just crushed the spirit
I actually
of,
agree with you.
Wow,
Bruce Wayne 25 just had.
I'm
crushed.
nervous. My heart is pounding because I hate knocking.
This is how
on
I feel about you right now,
Batman. Thank you.
Oh, sorry, Bruce Wayne 25. You're still one of our best fans. We're not knocking you.
We still love you too.
All right. Well, that's Batman Unburied. We got to move on because we're kind of strict on time, and I want to give us some time. Just a quick mention. So, guys, Halo Episode 8,
yes!
Master Chief. We saw a side of Master Chief we never expected to. Master Chief got busy.
Mhm.
How y'all feel about it? Gamers are losing their minds. Master Chief has a girlfriend. No, she's a Covenant spy. No. Oh, yes. It was uncomfortable for me to watch. I'll be honest with you, because Pablo Schreiber, like Liev Schreiber, his half brother, is just one of those dudes who's like so massive that like the size differential can like. I'm sure that actress and him are like very similar in age, but the size differential, looking at it, I was just like, yeah, it's making me feel a little uncomfortable, right? Like, so it, yeah. So, you know, Master Chief got busy, and I'm still loving Halo though. I'm not going to spend too much time on this episode. I think we're going to really go in. Next week is the finale, and I think we're going to dedicate a whole lot of time to just talking about this whole experience as a whole. But as a penultimate episode and a Spartan on Spartan fight was dope, though. I gotta say that was pretty dope. But how you guys feeling?
It felt a little rushed.
The comment, Peter. Both characters had no helmets on, and Matt immediately turned the episode off.
I don't know how this helmet thing got started.
Oh my god!
I have no idea how this got started.
Okay. Anyways, I just felt like the love connection, it feels a little rushed in this for me. So I'm kind of like, well, if you were actually going to build into them having a real type of relationship or chemistry, and her having this possible flip from like one side to the other and then a flip back, I just wish they dedicated more time to that, because it feels kind of rushed. That's my only criticism. But other than that, it was awesome.
Matt, how'd you feel?
I agree with Janelle. I think she nailed it on the head. It did seem like kind of out of left field. I'm like, why this needs a little more buildup if you're gonna have me kind of suspend disbelief. However, all the other stuff of like him and Kai like battling the Spartan, that whole fight, the Cortana finally like really seeing her kind of push away from Halsey, all that stuff. I eat the show up with a spoon. I love the show. And it's a nice bounce back episode from probably the weakest episode of the season in last episode.
Yeah, you really need that armor as a Spartan, huh? Yeah, you really got to have that armor.
I'm not
makes a big difference. Yeah. All right, but Halo's on Paramount Plus. Halo's on Paramount Plus right now, and yeah, we've been loving the show. I'm sorry, Nicole, have you been checking it out?
I freaking love Halo. I am a huge Halo fan. Like, people don't realize that about me. Like, I'm just a giant Halo nerd. I love the show, but I also agree with Janelle. Again, it was just, I don't know. I like it. I love the show. I will go to bat for the show. But yeah, I agree with everything Janelle said. Like,
all right, Janelle, you're winning this episode.
Oh my
Congratulations!
God.
I can't believe I'm agreeing with Janelle this much.
Happened.
I love Janelle, but I never agree with Janelle this much.
No, that's weird. I'm very weirded out. I'm
It's
getting
just been that
better.
kind of
Just
week.
be proud of me. I'm growing. I'm blooming before your eyes.
That's amazing.
All right, Matt. So that's Halo. Matt, take us into comics this week, because we have some pretty interesting ones.
Okay, so the poll winner this week, thank you everyone for voting, is Moon Knight, Black, White, and Blood. It's another one of those anthology series from Marvel that I know Kofi loves so much.
I don't, but I did. But this one did it. Moon Knight did it right. So segue. Like, Moon Knight did it right, because the Black, White, and Blood thing, the whole theme, if you don't know, is the stories are drawn with the primary colors being black, white, and then red used in some kind of bloody reference, right? And Moon Knight is a character who the black-white dynamic makes so much more sense already thematically. Like, you're getting into something that really fits with the character. And the way that they used it in this book was clever and fun. This was physically a fun book to read for me. We're going to talk spoilers. So, like, one story that just takes the concept of, black, white, and red and makes it a Spider-Man Moon Knight story. Yeah, right? Smart. Like, and it's just Spider-Man annoying Moon Knight through like trying to get his Mr. Knight suit for some cosplay. And it's stupid, but it's amazing. And it's a fun story of these two odd pair characters, right?
Yeah.
And
trying to get it for the gala
series, yeah. And the backwards story, like when I finally got to the last story and it was the backwards one, like I must have read that story at least 2 or 3 times just for the pure joy of seeing what happened when I read it both ways, and like was just like, oh, and that was just amazing. And it was almost like holding an interactive puzzle piece. So this book actually did something good with it, besides being like smelling its own farts and being like, we are high art, put us on your coffee table, like Wolverine and all that stuff. And like, only weak point was your boy, Matt.
Okay, so here's the thing. So
Chris.
Jim hit me up about that. All right. So Jim hits me up and goes, dude. And I'm like, here's the thing. I will defend Chris Bachalo with like all my being.
Was that the first book?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the first book. It
That
is
makes
the
sense.
weakest of the well, okay, number one, it's got Hickman writing and his artwork. That should be a home run for me. All right. And instead is the weakest story of the whole issue. On top of that, Chris needs colors. All right. Like he's gotta have colors to help set apart the figures, because otherwise
it
everything
starts looking like a
looks shit.
mascot.
I was always trying to find Moon Knight's eye, because that's how I could judge the whole scene. And
I
so
couldn't.
it's like,
No, I couldn't understand why there was a red balloon into the story until I
only
started
to
reading the
break
story.
it up.
And I was like, oh, it's the only thing you can follow in this
It's the only
artwork
thing
is
you
where
can
is
do.
that red balloon? Like,
yeah.
okay.
So I'm just saying, just one, the future concept thing is actually kind of interesting, where she's actually Khonshu's like servant, and then he's the knight, right? I like the setup. I think that's really interesting, but that just whole thing just did not work for me, and I was so bummed. However, his artwork's amazing and other things. You should go read his stuff that has Moon Knight and Spider-Man in it. It's fantastic, but it has colors. He's got to have colors. Here's the thing. I thought the second story is by far the best story of this issue, because it is literally just him and Spider-Man teaming up and having fun, and Spider-Man's whole ribbing of all the Egyptian stuff is hilarious throughout, right? Because he's like, there's a great line that I can't repeat here, but you can go check out Jim Viscardi's Twitter. You can find the panel I'm talking about. But Spider-Man's like, so Egyptian stuff, right? Like he keeps saying, he's like, it's not always Egyptian stuff, and then he keeps going, right? And it's just this running gag. That was pure 90s. If you were a Moon Knight fan in the 90s and a Spider-Man fan, he always popped up in Spider-Man books. This was captured that feeling just so perfectly. So I love that. The last story, I liked the uniqueness of it, like having go backwards and stuff. It just didn't. It was like, it's okay. I thought this was, I've read a lot of these now. This was probably one of the weaker launches of this kind of book. If
You and
anything,
I are
actually
very opposed in this.
the one that's actually nailed it so far, way more than most of the others, is, I mean, it's a tie probably between, well, I'll say Elektra. Actually, Elektra's done really well, and I did not see that coming. But that series has done this format very well. Moon Knight, it was okay. I'm excited for the other ones, because that's the fun of this. Next issue, we're gonna get 3 new stories, 3 new creative teams, and great. But what do you think, Janelle?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it was good. Honestly, the first story just really messed me up, and I was really worried because I just, like you said, couldn't see anything. So I just didn't know what the heck was going on, and I wanted to, because I love Moon Knight and I'm really like on Moon Knight right now. So I was really worried, but when I got to the second one, I was really excited and like, okay, I get it. We're good. And I was going to get hypercritical about it, but they definitely recovered.
Nicole, did you have a chance to read these?
I did. I did. I'm not a big fan of the Black, White, and Blood books. I had to cover the Wolverine one, and I was like, please kill me. Because for me, the color palette doesn't work for me visually.
Yeah.
But I also recently gave myself the task of reading every comic appearance of Moon Knight ahead of the show. And I absolutely loved the story with Spider-Man.
Yeah. So
freaking much that I just could pretend that the book was in color, because I love that story so much. It was such a cool vibe. We'll continue to read like A+. The first story was not it, but the second one was just perfect.
Yeah, agreed. I agree. Moving on to the first book of the week from us is Captain America, Symbol of Truth. This is one of the dual launching Cap books. And this one is, of course, Sam Wilson back in the Cap suit with Falcon right next to him. It's a fun team up book. I am curious. I mean, this one just essentially is more focused on like Sam. Like, to me, the more interesting things here are actually like Sam's personal life and his stuff with Misty Knight and that growing thing. That seems to be, and also the question of like, is, what about the intel? She's kind of cagey on that. So like whatever that stuff is, to me, is the most interesting part of this issue so far. The action's fun, and it's just kind of bombastic, really fun stuff. A couple of really cool moments, but I wasn't like floored by this issue. I just really want to see more of Sam and Misty. Like, I actually just want that to become a bigger focus of the book for me. What you guys think?
I actually texted a friend of mine who used to live in New York and is a good friend of mine. And I was like, this is an example of why you need diversity hiring in more places, because there is just a scene in here that I was reading, and I was just kind of trying to get through this book because I had forgotten to read it. And I stopped and I was like, this has got to be written by a black person. I went back and I was like, yeah, okay, yeah, all right. And it's a scene where they're talking about Kennedy's Fried Chicken, which if you've never lived in New York, is a real thing. And Kennedy Fried Chicken is like the hood fried chicken. And there's one in like every kind of low income, working class neighborhood. They have the red awnings out front, and they're always called something different. They might be called Crown Fried Chicken, Kennedy's Fried Chicken, but it's halal style fried chicken, right? And they always have these crazy combos with like 2 wings and fries for like $2.25. So if you're struggling artist, you survive on this stuff like while you're in New York, right? But yeah, there used to be one across from the building I lived in when I first moved in there, and I lived with my friend. And we used to sit in there and just have this kind of conversation like Misty and Sam is having about like chicken places and like Kennedy's. And they advertise themselves as KFC. That's the whole kind of funny logic to it. And then you get it close and it's Kennedy's Fried Chicken. You're like, oh, that is not at all the same thing. But yeah, but it's these intricate little details are like, and I'm making a joke, but I'm not, but like diversity hiring is important because this felt, and like you said, like a certain way, it was Sam as a black character and the Captain America. This felt very authentic look and characterization of him and what's different about him and how he sees the world than Steve Rogers, which I think is something you really do need to nail down in these 2 books, that these 2 men both have this kind of ideal about America, but in 2 different kind of ways because they are 2 different kind of people. So yeah, I thought that was good. And I actually thought the action made me think like, you know, Torres Falcon and this, you know, Sam Wilson Captain America are badass, more badass than I would have thought. And they seem to be, you know, pretty good fighters and, you know, operational guys. So I think this was just like we always say, like the proverbial setup episode, you know, that's a slow burn setup. But, you know, you got Rumlow coming in, you got some interesting things happening. And so I'm kind of interested to see where this goes. And, you know, Silva's artwork is awesome. So
yeah, it's always good. Janelle?
Yeah, that's exactly what I was just about to say. Loved the artwork and the coloring, and obviously like totally different than Moon Knight. It was just kind of like the bright and comic booky, like everything I needed this week. And I loved it. I love seeing Sam as Captain America. Like I'm just, oh God, I'm loving it. I'm eating it up. Man. Yeah.
Agreed. Nicole?
Actually, I love this book for the same reason that Kofi did. What I love about, you know, you have to have for me, Captain America books work best when we get the idea of America as it is perceived or as people think it should be, and America as it's actually lived by the people who experience it. And that authenticity that we get at the different Americas that people like, you know, this version experiences versus, you know, Steve. And for me, that was the selling point between that and the really good art. It's a slow burn book, but I'm definitely going to keep reading this. I really liked it. The diversity matters. My son is black. The diversity matters. Huge in my household. So I'm really excited for this series.
Rock on. So next, last book of the week. I'm sorry, Janelle. We're diving into Gotham and we're going dark.
It's fine. Okay. There's no Batman.
Was Suicide Squad Kid Joker #3. This book is, this is the continuation and the final. This is actually the final book of this DC Black Label miniseries. Brian Azzarello, Alex Maleev. So, of course, I feel like I cannot for the life of me remember if we actually talked about the second issue on the show. I know we talked about the first and we loved it at the time, and I cannot remember what we all thought about the second one. But here, it's just the big finale, and what I think works well with Suicide Squad movies, and it's probably why I loved James Gunn's Suicide Squad, and I've really enjoyed the Black Label stuff, is that, you know, this concept really almost requires you to be able to lean into some of those more brutal and off-kilter and disturbing subject matter sometimes to make an impact, because we've already seen this premise done so many ways otherwise. You know what I mean? It just doesn't get a chance to really dip into that. And this issue has a lot of that. And so if you liked the other two, I mean, I've enjoyed the series. The series has some hard moments to be able to, especially one that involves kids later, which is very difficult for me sometimes when that stuff happens in comics and things like that. That was a lot for me, but I also understand like what they were going for and things like that. Anyway, I enjoyed this issue, but I'm glad it's over. Is that like I'm glad the series is done. Is that
no? I mean,
worthwhile opinion. I don't know.
This will be a great. I mean, this is going to be an awesome graphic novel. Like when it's put all together. No, I mean DC's also kind of wearing out the Suicide Squad stuff. I can't keep my Suicide Squad story straight between this, other Suicide Squad books, Rogues, in 15 other Batman stuffs that are going on all around the thing, including with Joker books everywhere. It gets hard. I had to literally go back and read. I was like, I started reading 3 and I was like, I don't think I ever read 2. And then I went back and I was like, oh no, I did. It's just been like so long and I forget all the other stories I've put in my head on top of this. I forgot this one, but no, this was a good finale. Like this was a much better one than 2 because this kind of played out and there are just so many great scenes. And I think that's just what this was. There are some great scenes in this book. And like Plastique's death is so great. Like that whole thing where she's like, okay, they're like, all right, Plastique, what do you think we should do? And she just gets like shot up and she's just like, dude, throw me out. Don't make me waste this. And just like blows up. And the finale, I mean, the ending was, I think is one of the stronger endings I've seen to a DC story in a long time. The way it just kind of leaves you with what happens. And it's this very intense moment between Red Hood and Joker. That's kind of very intimate and personal to the two of them. And I think, if nothing else, this book did one of the more kind of interesting depictions of Joker because he's kind of more kind of subdued and even just more, no, not to say reasonable, but he's like much more of a level character in this compared with these other misfits. And he's just kind of the dude like, yep, yeah, we're going on this crazy ride, man. This is nuts. And then like at the end, and he's just kind of like, he's like kind of nonchalant. So that was all interesting to me. So
I think they leaned into the manipulative side of the character a lot in this series, especially in this issue. Because
he's in everybody's heads. Like
that's the thing. That's like you can't. He's just as lethal when he's calm, and that's because he's always working you. And so I think that was an idea that was really interesting that they kind of focus on in this one. Janelle, what do you think? I know you love Joker.
Yeah, I mean, I love this Joker. I think this is like a cool and unique Joker, and he's kind of Jared Leto-y a little bit. Like,
I love how you just skipped around the word sexy.
I mean, he's not sexy. I mean, he's okay. He's okay in this book. But okay, I'm so sorry, but Harley Quinn's outfit, I can't get past.
What the hell is with that?
I can't.
Bro, you're talking about a series where she did a stripper.
That's fine.
That was the climax of last issue.
I love my sex workers and I love my strippers, but like, come on, she's doing high kicks in a bikini, and the top is a bandeau. It would fall down and her boobs would be flopping out. Like that's just the truth.
I mean, I can't argue with that.
And
I've been in that position.
that stuck out like a sore thumb.
That, and which again is fine because I love beautiful women. But beyond that, I loved it. I thought it was really fun. I really like the Suicide Squad. I don't feel maxed out on Suicide Squad stuff. I feel totally fine with it. So it's not too much for me. And to see Joker not with Batman is satisfying for me because, as you guys know, I'm a little overstimulated on the Batman stuff. So yeah. And then I honestly didn't realize this is the last book. So I was like, oh yeah, he definitely didn't at the end do the thing that I think that didn't happen. And so I don't know. I'm okay. Now I have to reread it because it's like, now that I know it's the close, I'm like, oh gosh, maybe Joker did bite it.
Yeah. This was an ambiguous ending. I think done well.
Very well. Yeah.
Nicole, what'd you think?
I think this is going to be better when I have the opportunity to actually sit down and read all 3 together because I honestly forgot this series existed. It's been so long. Yeah. I didn't hate it, but I like Janelle, I was like, what the heck is that Harley Quinn outfit? Like, what the crap?
She's like emotional. She's like got a tear, but she's like in a bikini. You're like, okay.
Like that functionally that doesn't work that way, but okay. Magic bandeaus. I don't know.
But they really set the tone a little different in Birds of Prey when they were trading hair ties during fights. I mean, it's just a level of realism you can't ignore.
Yeah, I'm never gonna get past that. But yeah, no, for me, this is kind of I read it, didn't really absorb too much of it. I will go back and read it as part of the whole. And then for me, I think that this is one of those things that's going to work better as part of a whole. But I also had a lot of most of my Gotham-related brain space was taken up this week by Future State Gotham. So, which we're not going to go there. So yeah, I'm just gonna have to revisit this one all together to have a real opinion.
I think this will. I mean, I think about this with all the DC Black Label stuff. The trades of those and the collections are going to.
Oh
be,
yeah.
Well, that's what the game they're really.
They're way better than just.
They're fantastic. My only nitpick is just with some of the DC Black Label projects like this one. This one got pushed, so. it's just like, because there is so much in the Batman world happening at any given time, there is only so much bandwidth that I can use to think. So like, you know, you have to go back and read, because there's so much other stuff that comes in, and it's all utilizing the same characters. So if you're going to dip into that, at least make it to where it's like 3 months in a row. Like, just like have it in the bag and then release it. So that way, so that way it never leaves, because that's been the problem with a couple different Black Label stories. It's like, I have to go back and reread stuff because I don't remember what happened. And it's great, but there's just so much real estate, especially in the Batman world. Some of the other ones, like Aquaman's coming out with a Black Label, and you're damn straight we're going to be reading that.
I'm ready.
But there's only like 2 Aquaman books, so it's not a big deal that like that one can be pushed 6 months. We'll probably remember it because it's fine, you know. So so that's comics this week, everybody.
And that'll be Comic Book Nation this week. Thank you guys. If you want to get into the show, subscribe on all your favorite podcast platforms. We're on all of them. If you want to watch our live stream every week, we're on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitch. If you want to follow us and keep up to date with the show, go on Twitter and follow us at Comic Book Nation. We also have a YouTube page that'll be coming, where we'll be dropping all kinds of extra videos and contents for you guys who are fans of the show. So stay tuned for that as well. Otherwise, have a good week. We will see you guys later. And if you missed any of the show, we'll be on Paramount Plus Sunday morning at 9 Eastern time. So check us out then as well on your big screen TV. See you later. This is Comic Book Nation. Peace.
Bye, guys.